Hi there, it's Michael Cowan here again, chatting to Mike Freedman from Freedthinkers. Mike, thanks for taking out a few minutes of your busy day just to have a quick chat to us and give us some insights into your experience as an entrepreneur and actually making it through the hump and getting from that idea stage through to actually being, dare I say, past the cash flow crisis and the challenges that you face every day. Can you just give us a bit of a background into Freedthinkers and what you guys actually do?
Sure. What we do, Michael, is a couple of things. But basically it's around research, which is market research, consumer research, and then strategy development.
Okay.
We do it for the public and private sector. So right now we're working on when I say research, it's usually around stakeholder engagements. So we're working on a visioning process for Cape Town. We're working on something similar for Schwane. And then we'll work with large corporates, brands, and also startups.
Okay.
The new chips.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of your experience, what do you believe it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur in today's marketing or market environment, I should say?
I think it's three things. The first one is pretty obvious. You've got to choose something that you love doing and that you're good at.
Okay.
If you just see a gap in the market and you go, but you're not particularly enamored by it, you'll probably fail. So you've got to be really, it's something that, I think it's that confluence of events. It's you're good at something. You see a gap in the market. Your offering's got to. If your offering's just the same, it's not going to go anywhere. So you've got to be different. You've got to be better. You're going against people usually who are bigger, who have got more track record, who may have national connections. They've got all of that. What you've got is your passion and your speed.
Okay.
Big companies are ponderous. They're slow. You're going to be fast. You're going to be working 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's being good at what you do. And then on the entrepreneurial side, I can't remember who it was, but I think it was Cortez. When he landed in South America, the first thing was burnt the ships.
Yes, it was.
So you had to go forwards. It's the same thing as an entrepreneur. A really good thing is to be unemployable. I mean, the reason I'm an entrepreneur is I'm basically unemployable. I'd argue too much. I'd have too many of my own opinions. I work at night rather than the day. I mean, I'm an absolutely useless employee.
Okay.
And I think in all my life, I've been an employee just for a few years. And
okay.
employer and myself realised it's not a good idea. So that's burning the bridges. It's make yourself unemployable. So being an entrepreneur is the only solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think being an entrepreneur is about taking the considered risk. It's always going to be a risk. There's going to be a considered risk. You're going to be exploited. I mean, this takes me on to the third point, and this is the thing where most entrepreneurs, including myself, often see a khat, and that is you've got to be almost the opposite of an entrepreneur, which is a good business person.
Yeah, that's a difficult one, though, isn't it?
It's very difficult. I mean, I remember earlier on in my career, some wise person telling me, Mike, you're great at what you do, you're a great entrepreneur, but you're a businessman's asshole.
Okay.
And he was right. I didn't know how to price myself. It was either too much or too little. Yeah. I let myself be bullied by big corporations and their big systems and everything else like that. I was overwilling to please or unwilling to please. And sometimes, and I think it depends on what you're doing, especially if there are people who rely on their creativity a lot more. It is really, really hard to have that businessman's hat. And it's either worthwhile cultivating a good mate or a partner. And some of the most successful entrepreneurs I know have very good business people as their partners. Yes. Someone won't grow the business or grow the enterprise, but turn the enterprise into a business.
Okay. That's a difficult one, though, isn't it, that partnership, because that opens a whole lot of other can of worms.
It does. Either it's a partnership or it's a hands-off where you're actually paying someone. I mean, there are people who can do this for you and 7 other people. So whilst you're growing, you don't need them full time. Yeah. But you price, especially on how to price. I mean, if you get a larger contract, how to price it.
Yes, absolutely.
Then you've got a 30-page agreement that you're just too bored to go through. And,
Yes.
you just are. And then you find out on page 23, subsection C, that if you haven't fulfilled something, they can just cut you off at the knees.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as a businessman, you've got to be, and in fact, you're respected for being tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to be tough and fair. I mean, in our own business, we've got a very interesting model. I remember I was at an investment lunch and sitting next to a guy who was, I don't know, in his 70s, 80s, and he'd made a pile of money in the wholesale business.
Okay.
And he's an old guy. He said, "My son, what do you do?" And I explained what I did. He said, "Well, do you have staff?" And I said, "Well, we have project teams. And for each project, we bring on a team. For one project, we'd have 4 people. For an expert project, we'd have 20 people."
Yeah.
He said, "Do you have big premises?" I said, "We don't need big premises. In fact, the partners work from our homes and we meet where we meet. In fact, we did have offices for 3 years and found we didn't need them."
Yeah.
And he said, "And what about stock?" I said, "What stock do we need?" He said, "My son, you have the perfect business. You have no overheads, you have no stock, you have no worries." And he said, "And the best of all, what you sell, you keep." And he tapped to his head. "You keep in here.
Yeah.
You keep what you sell."
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, but the other hand of that kind of business, and especially when you're an entrepreneur, you're often selling time.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you may not get too poor, but you may not get too rich either.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a good point. Time is not a nice thing to be selling. It really isn't. It's tiring. Let's put it that way, isn't it? Yeah.
And that's why what we've seen is, and I think one of the things I learned in my belated trying to understand what a business person was about was to actually look at having different sources of revenue generation. I don't mean different clients by different sources. I mean, for instance, we have, if you like, a consultancy business.
Yeah.
That consultancy business is time.
Mm.
Then we have a project business. And that project business is based on deliverable of results, which is not time-based.
Yeah.
And the third business, which, to be honest, we're just starting, is that we will actually say, especially with startups, in lieu of money, in lieu of a fee, we will take a small share or share.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's the third example of revenue generation. It's very interesting that, I don't know if you read, the graffiti artists that decorated Facebook's walls accepted a small share in lieu of a fee, and the recent share offering will make him $200 million.
That was a bad paint job he did. Hey? Jeepers, gosh. Yeah.
So
it's quite scary.
I'm not sure if we get one of those, but a couple of businesses, there is a small shareholding, which, is just a third revenue model. So I do think it's very important to actually, especially if you are basically time-based, to try and work out how you can actually have other revenue models to supplement that.
Yeah.
That'll be the bread and butter, but it won't be the jam.
No, absolutely. And it's a constant debate. Well, certainly that's what I've found. Mike, in terms of getting to where you are and taking out those very few years of corporate experience, what do you think's been the most difficult part of doing what you do on a daily basis, getting up and running your own business and being an entrepreneur? What do you think's the hardest part of all of that?
The hardest part is to balance marketing what you do and doing what you do.
Okay.
It's a typical famine and feast.
Yeah.
And it's a systems problem that it's not only with entrepreneurs, but it's a systems problem insofar as, okay, you wake up and, oh my goodness, you haven't got enough clients coming in, and you go hectic marketing program. You call everyone you know, and half the people you don't know, you make appointments. Now you're busy. You are so busy, the last thing you can do is marketing, especially when you were marketing, you weren't earning as much as you should. Now you're making up for that. So you do no marketing. So guess what happens again?
It's a terrible sign.
You go into the trap.
Yeah.
And so it is, and as I say, it doesn't only happen to entrepreneurs, but it happens to entrepreneurs more because you've got limited manpower, you've got limited hours in the day. So it is to balance that and try and be disciplined enough, even when you have a full diary, not to make it overfull, because marketing has to be an ongoing thing that you do.
Okay.
And you need your own marketing plan. I mean, we do marketing plans for large, small corporations, but I mean, often for many years we've been like the cobbler's son. We didn't do ones for ourselves.
Yeah.
Didn't give it the time it took. And yeah, I guess we've been fairly lucky, and the better you're known, the less you need. But my goodness, you still need it.
No, I would agree.
For years, we'll just say, "Oh my goodness, really thought of you last week when we were giving out this contract."
Okay.
You know, we go out of people's minds very quickly, very fast.
No, absolutely. Is that why you run your business on project teams, just to try and balance that cycle, or is that more of a cash flow resource thing?
It's two things. Yes, it does work very well for cash flow resource. We always thought to have a smaller hub as possible.
Yeah.
And it just seems easier because, again, I mean, I wasn't born into this business world. I mean, it's very easy to cost a project and apportion very small overheads. If you have huge overheads, then it's unwieldy. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, unless you're a huge, huge company, and even then I don't think it works, you'll not assign the right people for the right projects. On the one hand, Freedthinkers, as I said, could be doing a visioning project for a city. We could also be talking to mothers about baby food.
Okay.
You probably need different kinds of moderators to do that.
Very different kind of moderators, yeah.
So, you know, in some of the areas, even within a project, when you're doing a visioning project for a city, you could be going into areas that are, if you like, politically volatile.
Okay, yeah.
So the kind of moderator that is used to quite the gentle life is you need more of a person that's been into the conflict resolution kind of.
For sure.
So basically our model is best of breed.
Yeah.
We put together teams, right, project teams. And what we found is this. It takes a little, and this is research that's been actually conducted internationally. When you put together a diverse project team, it takes a little longer for them to gel.
Okay.
You know, we got to get to know each other. Our shorthand isn't the same.
Yeah.
Just slightly off. Whereas a homogeneous team can just go quickly. So we need more preparation. But it is a richer experience because of that diversity.
Yeah.
Plus, there are less issues. You know, I mean, you see all these, and they're right, I mean, you see all these soap operas, whether it's about mining or retail or anything else.
Yeah.
Or doctors. Half the soap opera is this one is in love with that one, who's broken up with the other one, who's not talking to this one, who's fighting with that one. And, anything gets done, whether it's an operation or mining some gold, I don't know.
Okay.
When you have project teams, it's almost eliminated totally.
Okay.
We're there to do a project. I mean, our model is actually a film production company.
Okay.
Usually you get the director and then you get people on. And some of the people are regulars. Like you get a regular Sparks. Some of our people are regulars. I mean, there are some people that we're working with every month.
Yeah.
There are some people that we're working with maybe a few times a year.
Okay.
But the composition of the team is always fresh, always new. And it's around the project. The project is the hero. And what we found is, sorry, just to finish it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
What helps us a lot is we have 3 values. That's Freedthinkers. And if you're on a Freedthinkers project team, those 3 values, and we insist upon them, is what you keep to, what bind us together. They're the glue for the project.
Okay. Okay, so there's a commonality there. I was just going to say when I was there, I think it was in Seth Godin's latest book. This is what he was advocating. He's like, you want a factory, go to China. It's very simple. You know, work on a project to project to project basis. You know, it makes your life a lot easier. And really a last question, Mike. If you had a young chap in front of you there, or a young girl in front of you, and they had a fantastic idea, what do you think your advice would be to them to make sure when they came and saw you in a year's time, to actually make sure that project that they were working on succeeded? What would your advice be to them? What would you like them to do over that course of that year to actually succeed? Because that's the hard part, is turning that idea into a reality.
Exactly. And I think it's, well, I love the Steve Jobs quote of real artists ship.
Yes.
Like, so, yes, you're going to make it happen. Sure, you want $50 million or whatever it is to start with. You're not going to get it.
Yeah.
So, okay, what can you do to go to that next stage? Yeah, it's a great idea. First, do some of the conventional stuff. It's all very nice, but why do you feel there's a market for it? Yeah. I'm not saying you have to do market research. Often you don't. It's very hard to do market research about something that doesn't exist.
Yes, absolutely.
But to do a little bit of research just to see whether the idea exists, whether the product exists. If it does exist, why are you going to do it better? Who have a very clear idea of who your prime prospects are going to be. Who's going to buy this stuff? Put yourself in their shoes. Be an actor.
Okay.
I loved, there's a story of the Honda Civic. The Japanese decided they wanted to, if you like, invade the American market. And they said the Honda Civic it was going to become the first, and they put it world car, but they wanted it to become a car that's adopted by America. So they sent their engineers and designers over to the States. And one of the first places they went to is Disneyland. Okay. They didn't go into Disneyland. They sat in the car park for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just how Americans got out of their cars, unloaded their cars, then went into Disneyland. And when they came back, how they were loading up their cars again, the frustrations, what they needed, what they didn't need.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks, they actually started modifying the designs. The story is that the Civic became the first foreign car that came #1 in America.
Yeah.
Was sitting 2 weeks outside Disneyland. They were becoming their subjects. They were becoming their prospects.
Mm.
And I think that story for me is absolutely right for that young would-be entrepreneur. Become your prospect. Find your own Disneyland car park for 2 weeks.
That is such a beautiful idea, actually, and see what people actually, their behavior actually is.
Yeah.
Because if you can get that behavior right, buying becomes a very easy process then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Mike, thank you so much for your short time here. Pleasure. And thank you for those insights. It was brilliant, man.
Pleasure and good luck.
Thanks a lot, Mike.